Hi, this is Jeff Short, and you are on Christian Answers program for today. And just wanted to jump in here before we look at a video clip from Dr. James White on the Dividing Line television program. Some good news coming out of Washington in the form of a tweet. The president, it looks like, is going to ban so-called transgender people from military service, which from a Christian worldview is a good idea. And we're going to listen to Dr. James White explain why that is a good idea and why this current policy that the previous administration implemented is a disaster, illogical, absurd. And so we're going to hear Dr. White explain why, but a lot of times as Christians, we sit back and we see so many bad things happening, and on the news every single day, it seems like bad news is just the standard fare, and we hear this and we hear that. It seems like the culture is declining. It is declining. There's no question about that. If you look back at the moral values of our society, they're definitely going downward in trajectory, not upward. But that's why it's so important that when good news occurs, we need to tell people about that good news. And one of the good things that happened this week is that the president tweeted out in a strange form of communication, but that's the way the world is today. He tweeted out that the military will now ban so-called transgender soldiers, men or women. Women who have so-called transition to men, men who have so-called transition to women, they will be banned from military service. And there's so many positive and good things about this executive order and policy change. Unfortunately, it will only last as long as the administration that implemented it, because no doubt there will come a time when the administration will change, years and years down the road, and the trajectory of the LGBTQ so-called movement will once again get back on track. That's the way things are happening. So it's not something to jump up and down and celebrate. It's a temporary relief from a state of insanity. And I hope that there is no opposition in the military. As far as I can tell, there shouldn't be any real opposition, because as what I'm told, that most of the military personnel don't agree with the past administration's policy about opening up the military to transgender persons, and they certainly don't agree with paying taxpayer money to have them what they call transition, which is a bogus concept anyway. You can't really transition from a woman to a man. You can only make cosmetic changes. And so I hope that there isn't anything that would block this. I hope that there isn't any judge anywhere that would step in and say to the president, no, you can't rule this way. So this is a positive step in the right direction. This is one of the reasons why we voted for this president that we have today. Certainly not because he has strong Christian credentials, or he has a Christian worldview, or he has a Christian character, or he even has a Christian testimony. Those are all things that are very doubtful. But we believed that he would implement a Christian worldview in certain key areas, and this is one of them: gender and sexuality, the marriage, and abortion. And so far he is following his pledge and promise to evangelical Christians in these areas. So we need to pray that this is actually implemented, and at least for a while we have a little reprieve from the insanity. So let's go ahead and watch Dr. James White take a look at this issue and make comments on it.
So anyway, the vast majority of this has nothing to do with mental problems or genetic problems. It is purely rebellion against God's right to determine how man is to live. Nothing more. I would say 98.5% of this quote unquote transgender movement is nothing but sexual perversion. It's nothing but I want to fulfill my lusts in this way. It is rebellion against God. When one of these House representatives, one of these representatives was saying, what about this guy from the Navy SEALs Team 6? Did you see the pictures? Oh my gosh, really? First of all, this person did not serve in drag. I can guarantee you that person did not jump out of a helicopter wearing a wig or long hair or a bra, okay? This person did not serve as a woman in a male unit. Once they retired, they started cross-dressing. But when Ms. Magazine tells me that I have to look at that guy dressed up as a gal and say, this is truly a woman, I refuse to do so because I'm married to a true woman and I know the difference. And every guy out there knows the difference, and every woman out there knows the difference, and I'm not playing the fantasy game with you. I happen to live in the real world. Not going to go there. Can't go there. As a Christian, I cannot go there. I don't see how any Christian ever could. Because you see, fundamentally, at the base of all of this, the only way that you can accept a transgender worldview is if you accept the idea of secular atheism and neo-Darwinian micromutational evolutionary theory. There's no other way to do it. If we are intelligently designed by God, then there's males and there's females. And that is an absolute genetic scientific fact. We're not the same. We are different from one another. And the only way that this wild-eyed idea of absolute human autonomy can ever gain traction, can ever be utilized, is if you deny the existence of God, of intelligent design, and of purpose in the universe. Because the whole thrust is that what a person thinks in their mind determines reality for them. Instead of the mind being receptive to reality and dealing with the reality around it, now the mind becomes the creator of reality because you don't have a creator at all. And so man has to step in where man was never designed to step in. And so, just as in the redefinition of marriage, what we're being told, and it worked. It worked for a long time. We were able to maintain a statement in society that what we're talking about is redefining marriage. And then that stopped. That stopped. It became a justice issue. It became an equality issue. It was never about justice. It was never about equality. It was about redefinition of marriage. Now we're talking about the redefinition of humanity itself. And the only way that that can work is if you have a worldview that has so collapsed and becomes so, quite literally foolish, that mankind becomes his own creator. Once that happens, then you can have people who one day are a female, and the next day they're a male, and then the next day they're a camel, and the day after that they're a horse or whatever. There's really no limitations to any of this stuff because it's fantasy. It's pure fantasy, and the mind is capable of coming up with a lot of fantasy. And so what we're being asked, and what we've been asked all along to do, is to deny what we believe. That is what is being asked of us, is to deny that there is a God, to deny that he is the creator, to deny that he has a purpose in how he's created mankind. We are being told, you must deny that you're God's creature. You must deny that Jesus Christ is the creator of all things, that he entered into his own creation, that he taught about the relationship of men and women. He confirmed God's law, what is good and right in God's sight, and therefore what's good and right for mankind. You have to deny all of that, or we will call you a bigot. We will call you a hateful person. And the process, you bring about not only destruction to the individuals, because this is not every study, and this would be true whether we had studies or not, and eventually in the Orwellian world that's coming our way, we won't have these studies. They won't be allowed to be done. Don't mark it down, write it down, that in July of 2017, I said that if this keeps going the way it is, we won't have the freedom in a very short period of time to even do studies that would in any way contradict the perspective of the new society and the societal high priests that are running the new society. We won't even be able to do it. But at least right now, we can point to studies that demonstrate not only that both homosexuals and transgendered individuals are more susceptible to self-destructive behavior, drugs, alcohol, suicide, massive sexual promiscuity. I mean, just look at the standard male homosexual. Thousands and thousands of partners on average. It's just astounding. But even when the transgendered individual is provided with mutilation, that's what it is. You cannot make a male into a female. You can chop a male body up. You can mutilate a male body. You can put a male body on artificial drugs to damage it, but that doesn't make a female, and it never will. I don't care how far we advance. I don't care how it's not that you can't transition. There's no such thing as transitioning. There never will be anything like transitioning. It's just, sorry, doesn't work that way. And it is destructive to even try to do so. So it is destructive to that person's life. Every study has demonstrated that even the people who transition are many times more likely to suicide after the surgery than before. Why? Because it doesn't accomplish anything. All these hopes they're given, oh, I'm going to be so happy, I'm going to be so fulfilled. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's the fact. That's the truth. And the political correctness now says you can't tell people that. Oh, so you care so much about these people that you can't tell them that it's a big lie. And so you're going to let them mutilate their bodies and then find out for themselves it's the big lie. And then they will be far more likely to commit suicide then. And this is the loving thing? Yeah. Because you got to understand, the social engineers who are seeking to destroy Western culture don't care about anybody but themselves and their own power over the people. They don't care about transgenders. They don't care about homosexual people. It's irrelevant to them. If they commit suicide, they don't care. Doesn't matter. As long as their stories can be used to promote their agenda. They'll use anyone. They'll destroy anyone. So not only is it destructive to the individual, it's destructive to the society around us. Oh, you don't have any evidence. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I know that when I take my granddaughter to Target, that I don't take her to the bathroom there. That I can't. I have to plan my trip so as not do those things, because, and it's not just Target anymore, almost any place, in a number of cities, in public places, and so on and so forth. You just don't have the freedom to be able to do the things you did before because of the insanity of city councils and people who get into government just simply to promote this sexual revolution. It is destructive. There are all sorts of studies, again, that won't be allowed to do this for much longer, but studies, again, that demonstrate that confusing little boys and girls about gender fluidity in first grade is child abuse. And it is. It's absolute child abuse. So it's not only destructive to the individuals, it's destructive to the society as a whole. It's destructive to marriage, it's destructive to the family. And we've known this because of the fact that we know how God has designed us to flourish in this world. And we are in open, unquestioned rebellion against it and seeking to persecute and prosecute those who would stand against this revolution. They must be punished for not getting with the program. We will call them all sorts of names. We will not engage with them in meaningful debate because we can't. Our position is, on an intellectual level, absolutely absurd. And it can't defend itself. All we can do is yell and scream and just hope that we get to say it enough that people will accept what we have to say. So from the Christian perspective, we recognize that God has created his world to function in a particular way, and that man will never fully experience life in the way he is intended to experience it until he submits to God's law and to God's way. And we have a creator, therefore there is purpose, there is intention, and we don't have the right to change it. We don't have the right. That is the fundamental issue, because everyone's saying otherwise. That yes, I do. I have the right to change this. I have the right to rebel against God's created order. And if you're talking to people who call themselves Christians, this is a direct rebellion against the authority of Jesus Christ and his teaching. And we are being told, you can't follow Jesus in this matter. The social scientists have more authority. The social scientists have more insight than any person who lived 2,000 years ago in this matter. That's what you're being told. They've never risen from the dead and they didn't create the world, but they have more authority. They have more authority. That's what we're up against. There can't be compromise here. A Christianity that has no creator, has no law, therefore has no message. There is no such thing as a secular Christianity. That's a blasphemy. It's a dead shell. It's worthless. And we're seeing a lot of that today. I mean, obviously the Christianity and liberalism, which departed from Christianity a long time ago, it's out there, promoting all this stuff and thinks it's wonderful because they've got nothing else better to be doing, because they don't have a message. It's not a divinely revealed faith. And it doesn't challenge the world. It just simply gets told by the world what to do. And that's why the world has no respect for it either. It's very obvious. It has no respect for it. The world hates Christianity because that's a challenge. The Christianity, real Christianity, says Jesus Christ is Lord. Fake Christianity says the society is Lord and we'll make Jesus look like the society. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing. When you see every one of these churches that collapses and starts blessing same-sex unions and calling them marriages and doing the transgender thing and God's just made us all however we are, blah, 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 blah. What you're looking at there is a secular society with a religious veneer on it that just comes up with a Jesus figure that looks like the most recent social scientist teaching at the local university. It's a blasphemy. And it just reminds me that someday God will judge. And nobody's willing to say it anymore. No one is willing to look at these judges who judge unjustly and do what the psalmist said. How many of the prophets and how many times in the Psalms do you have words addressed to judges that remind them that God is the final judge and that they have responsibility to judge in light of what God says is true. Nobody says that anymore. No, that's threatening. That's hate speech. That's whatever. That's how you shut down any kind of conversation these days. And it works for people. It works for people. I mean, the people coming out of Caesar's schools reason as Caesar does. And it's like Pavlovian stimuli. Ring the bell and, I can't think like that. I've been taught not to do that. Well, yeah, it takes about 12 years of conditioning, but you can eventually get somebody to respond pretty consistently. Pretty consistently. So God made us male and female. It's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a gift to mankind to recognize true masculinity and true femininity. It's a gift to mankind. And evidently Western society is no longer worthy of this gift. And so the only way that I can look at that picture of that former Navy SEAL and understand why people would go, well, there's a good example. That's a true woman. The only way I can understand that is in light of Romans chapter 1. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Their foolish hearts are darkened. And God gives them over in the lusts of their hearts to the dishonoring of their bodies amongst themselves. There it is. That's the only way I can understand it. Somehow Paul knew about this stuff a long time ago. So, 3 times yesterday, and it just kept hitting me. My goodness. We are so far past the battle on this. So what are we supposed to do? Are we just fighting a rearguard action? Are we just in constant retreat? Well, the fact is, if you live in a society, in a nation or a broader society that is under the judgment of God, you are called to be salt and light, and it's not going to be fun. And that society is going to try to shut you down. They're going to try to shut us down. I am shocked it hasn't happened yet. But the day is going to come when we are going to have to find alternative ways of communicating with the people we're communicating with today. There is no way that we are going to be allowed to have the freedom to make an argument. Because I've made an argument. I've made an argument that transgenderism is damaging to society and it's damaging to the people who are given the big lie that there's such a thing as transitioning. I've made an argument and I've given facts. And it's logical and it's rational. The response from the secular totalitarians will not be logical or rational. It's just shut up. That's why whenever anybody who has any kind of now countercultural message shows up on a university campus, violence breaks out. Because you're not allowed to say these things. And the day will come sooner than later when, that's why I keep telling folks, if you like the dividing line, you better download it and save a local copy. Because eventually it's all going to disappear. It's just going to. I know it's going to. These people do not value freedom. They have no basis in their worldview for valuing freedom and liberty. They talk about it all the time, but they are the most exclusivistic, narrow-minded, totalitarian individuals on the planet. Because once you don't have God, once you are stuck with a secular system, there are no other options. There are no other options. It's obey or be destroyed. That's it. Just get along with us. We're in charge. That's how it works. That's how it works. Christian can't go along, but you better know why. Or you're going to say, you know what? This isn't a hill to die on. Well, define for me a hill to die on. Because we're talking here about the very existence of God. What do you mean existence? If God created man and woman, he defined all this. We don't get the option to say, no thanks. I mean, aside from the fact it would result in the end of the species, that little tiny thing there, this comes down to, can God define what sin is? Can God even define how mankind is supposed to even behave? If not, why are we bothering? Why are we bothering? That's truly the question. So as this, as you interact, as you watch what's going on with this transgenderism, it truly does demonstrate that once God gives a people over, it's hard to even recognize. It's hard to even recognize the image of God in a person who's been given over, because their mind just becomes so self-absorbed with rebellion that every godly category is just wiped out. And the logical thinking that should be there, gone. Just gone. It's amazing.
All right, we're back, and we are here after that short video clip. But as you can see, Dr. James White really gets into why, as Christians, we need to see this total transformation of morality and gender roles and all the gender confusion as a total collapse of the Western cultural moral foundation. And as Christians, we need to applaud every single step in resistance to that ungodly movement that's taking place. And so when we see the president tweeting out that he's going to ban transgenders in the military, we need to say, hurrah! And we want to encourage him to continue his direction as far as these social conservative issues. Now, at the same time, and Dr. James White also mentioned this, we can't begin to think that the culture has turned around. The culture has not turned around. And it's very unlikely that the culture will turn around if God is scheduling judgment for our culture. So we need to be realistic. We need to look at these developments and applaud the positive ones. We need to decry the negative ones. And we need to tell the world, hey, we're Christian. We operate on a Christian worldview. We're not pagan. We're not secular. We're not moral relativists. And so we don't believe that you can make up as you go along morality, or make up as you go along gender identity. And we don't believe that the creature, that is humanity, can step into the place of the Creator and begin to make decisions that are only appropriate for the Creator to make. And if God has created you male, then you need to rest in that. You need to be confident in that. If God has created you male, then you need to identify as a male. If God has created you female, and you simply have to examine your body architecture to find that out, then you need to affirm that you are female and learn to live in the reality of what God has put you in. This insanity of transgenderism, this insanity of reassignment surgery. You cannot reassign someone to the opposite sex. The person can't reassign themselves, and neither can a doctor, surgeon reassign them through an operation. This is done by God and God alone. God has determined what a male is and has determined what a female is. And we need to stop rebelling against the Creator. We need to stop rebelling against God's will and simply follow His will. That's the only way society can survive. And so as Christians, we need to keep bearing witness for this truth. We need to continue to remind our fallen, sick, degrading culture that God is alive, judgment is coming, and we better be prepared to repent and conform to His will before it's too late. So I hope that's helped you, and God bless you. See you back here on another edition of Christian Answers.